Is there anything that would make Trump's supporters stop supporting him? I'm not asking that rhetorically, seriously. Because what we're going to talk about in this segment, in any rational world, for any other presidential candidate, would be the end of it. Maybe he'd still, just as a formality, stick through the election and pretend like they're campaigning, but they'd know no chance they'd win. But there's such a good chance, despite what we're going to talk about. And it's mind-boggling. Trump said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and not lose any supporters. And we all thought, oh no, that's sort of not literally. Is it literally? It's a question that really torments me. And I want to get to the rally that Trump held right as the news that we'll lead with was breaking. The Atlantic reports that Trump said, and we've heard this before, but now we have audio to listen to, of John Kelly, Trump's former chief of staff, longest serving chief of staff, confirming many of these stories and adding new details. Trump saying, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. The Republican nominee's preoccupation with dictators and his disdain for the American military is deepening. And I do think it's important that in this segment, which is why we're going to do it, you then see what Trump's up to and how the crowd is interacting with what he's saying. And all of us don't allow this big media machine on the right that pretends like, oh my gosh, liberals are triggered again. Like we're crazy for caring that Trump has this obsession with dictators and authoritarians worldwide. An obsession with historical dictators and wanting generals who are as loyal to him as they've been to those figures, even when he doesn't understand the history of the loyalty or lack thereof to, in this case, Hitler. Multiple times people corrected Trump and said, they tried to assassinate him. And Trump said, no, they were loyal to Hitler. That's what I want. Before getting to the audio and before getting to the Trump rally, you also have this headline. As election nears, Kelly warns Trump would rule like a dictator. John Kelly, the Trump White House's longest serving chief of staff, said that he believed that Donald Trump met the definition of a fascist. They keep telling us, MAGA that is, that we are provoking violence by pointing to the fascistic characteristics of Trump. When Trump says the enemy from within, vermin, poisoning the blood, use the military to go after them. And we go, there's some historical reference points for that type of rhetoric. They say you're provoking violence. So then I pose to them again, how do we discuss this? Because it's no longer just some triggered lib as you might justify it in your head. We're talking about Trump's Secretary of Defense, his National Security Advisor, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff under him, the Attorney General, and now his Chief of Staff, among a bunch of other people who worked for him, saying he threatens our democracy, he is fascist, and he disparages veterans in so many different ways. So while we go through this, I'll play some audio, then we'll go to a rally clip, play some audio as a split screen of the truth about Trump versus what it seems is being bought into by MAGA. Before we listen to this audio, please do click the subscribe button if you haven't yet. We have crossed over 900,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Anyone who's not, you add yourself to that group of people, become a part of the Beasley Brigade. It's free, it's easy, simple, it makes all the difference. And very quickly, we're hoping to get to 1 million subscribers. Incredible. Here's the audio.
He would he commented more than once that, that Hitler did some good things too. And of course, if you know history, again, I think he's lacking in that. But if you know what Hitler was all about, it'd be pretty hard to make an argument that he did anything good.
So what would you say when he said to you that Hitler did a lot of good things?
Well, I tell him that. I said, first of all, you should never say that. But if you knew what Hitler was all about from the beginning to the end, everything he did was in support of his racist, fascist life, philosophy, so that nothing he did you could argue was good. It was certainly not done for the right reason. And, but he would occasionally say that.
What would he say when you would lay that out to him?
He just, that'd be the end of the conversation usually.
And there's much, much more. But it forces you to ask, if that's coming out, there must be, even though there's nothing for me, but for these followers, there must be something so undeniably, unbelievably wonderful about Trump when you go to these rallies, for them to say, I'm sticking with him. So let's see. What was he up to while this news was breaking? Insulting just about everyone.
They're bringing out Obama. I say, oh, they did that with Hillary Clinton. Good, I'm glad they're bringing him out. The reason they're bringing him out, because he doesn't even want to do it. I think he's exhausted. I watched him talking. I think the guy's exhausted. And I never say guy's looking old, but he's looking a little bit older, isn't he? There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. But he's exhausted.
Really? He just takes headlines about him and starts applying it to Obama, who is one of the most, I don't want to use any terms that would not be the most professional, but he's a good-looking, 60-plus-year-old, incredible at communicating, youthful in his delivery. But Trump is so insecure because he's being called exhausted on the campaign trail. So he's saying, it must be Obama. And then he also says a similar thing about Kamala Harris.
That's a big group back there. You know where Kamala is today? They don't want to tell you. No. You don't know where she is? You know where she is? She's sleeping. She took a day off. She's got no energy at all. Her speeches last for about 15 minutes.
Of course, false. But now it has to be Kamala Harris who's tired and sleeping. Because Trump has been caught actually dozing off at a campaign event. So this is what's so gravitationally appealing about Trump. Because sometimes they'll go, no, we just hate democratic policies so much. So I don't know what he said about Hitler, but we got to pick him. No, you didn't. You overwhelmingly sided with him over every other Republican. Other Republicans, by the way, that I would not have liked as president, but who would have, number one, had a better chance of winning, and number two, wouldn't have the severity of the character flaws that Donald Trump has, but you sided with him. Why? When he's on the record, according to those so close to him, having this sort of character.
He basically said to you that those who died for America on the battlefield were losers and suckers, and he said it more than once.
Yes, but he would he would say it would always that something else would get him going. Oftentimes again, McCain, but he never could wrap his arms around why people would serve the country in uniform. What was in it for them? That was the general theme.
What was in it for them, he says. The party that proclaimed to be, it's almost exhausting to repeat these things because clearly they don't do anything, pointing it out. But the pro-veteran party, as they tried to brand themselves, is going with the guy who has a veteran, John Kelly, who served alongside him, saying he disparages veterans, suckers, and losers. What's in it for them? Do you really want a president who sees everything through the lens of how do I benefit? Only me. But apparently this is just too appealing for them to abandon him.
Stupid. She didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? I don't know.
Insult after insult.
She's a stupid person.
He keeps repeating this. There are a lot of different policy areas where we can disagree. There are a lot of ways that you could fairly, even if I disagree with it, criticize Vice President Kamala Harris's candidacy. no one buys, unless you're just sort of drinking the Kool-Aid, that she's not intelligent. She's obviously an intelligent person. And then you can criticize her stances or how she answers questions or whatever. But they're more fixated on a baseless accusation of drug use instead of looking into, do I believe what John Kelly's saying? Like this?
He's certainly the only president that has all but rejected what America is all about and what makes America America in terms of our Constitution, in terms of our values, the way we look at everything, to include family and government. And he's certainly the only president that I know of that was certainly in my lifetime that was like that.
General Mark Milley, General John Kelly, telling us, as people themselves who spent their life serving the country in the military, saying Trump does not respect those who serve. And in this case, he rejects everything fundamentally about what America is supposed to stand for. Another anecdote in this Atlantic reporting that further emphasizes this is a soldier at Fort Hood who was murdered by fellow soldiers, Private Vanessa Guillen. Trump, in expressing his condolences, said he would pay for the funeral. And when it came time to do so, and the amount was brought up to him, he responded after becoming angry, quote, "It doesn't cost $60,000 to bury an effing Mexican. Don't pay it. Can you believe it? Effing people trying to rip me off." But that doesn't turn off his supporters, because apparently this is what they need so badly in their lives, and they have to inflict upon all of us.
He's a fierce man. I get along with him very well. Putin, these are people that are tough people. Kim Jong-un, North Korea, nuclear weapons all over the place. I said, you ever do anything else? Go to a game, do something, He loves producing nuclear weapons. That's what he likes producing. And he's got a lot of them. And he has no respect for our leadership now. And he didn't respect Obama. He thought Obama was a real jerk. A real jerk. And I think he's a real jerk because I've watched him campaign over the last couple of days. I watched him campaign. What a divider he is, right? What a divider he is. He'd divide this country. He couldn't care less. Him and his little group of people. He was.
This is the most projection per second in any political rally ever. For him to go, Obama's the exhausted and old one. Obama's the divider. Vice President Harris is dumb and doesn't know what she's talking about. She's going to go sleep. It's so much projection, it's genuinely difficult to process. And the way that he's cultivating an audience of people who really respect more leaders across the world who stand against so much of what we stand for, like Xi Jinping, respect them more than a Democrat, Trump says.
We're going to have it back there very soon. With 4 more years of Kamala Harris, North Carolina will be an economic wasteland. That's what's going to happen. The rest of your companies are going to move out. Everybody knows that. The smart people know. She's the only one that doesn't know it. Low IQ. She's a low IQ individual. And we've had that for 4 years. We don't need another 4. No country could take that. Can you imagine what President Xi, I got to know him very well. He's a fierce individual. The press, the fake news hates when I say that he's a brilliant man. He runs 1.4 billion people with an iron fist.
What makes him brilliant, you ask? That he controls over 1 billion people with an iron fist. That's what makes him brilliant. I want generals like Hitler had. Hitler did some good things. Xi Jinping is smart because he is an authoritarian ruler. Why is that something they're more willing to listen to and not this?
certainly the former president is in the far right area. He's certainly an authoritarian, admires people who are dictators. He has said that. So he certainly falls into the general definition of fascist.
We just had that reporting about Mark Milley and Woodward's reporting, who is Trump's chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, saying that Trump is fascist to the core. Now, his longest serving chief of staff is saying, yeah, he fits the definition of fascist for sure. And then just one more rally moment. This doesn't connect to the general theme of this, but apparently MAGA needs so badly. They can't abandon Trump over his authoritarian inclinations and obsessions, because then who would rant about how good they rant?
I do the weave. You know the weave? I'll tell a story and I'll go from here being, it's actually genius, I have to say. And fair and smart people say it's total genius. But they say, oh, he wandered. I didn't wander. Wander is when you don't get back to the same point. No, I give the weave. They don't do anything for me. What they do with me is I give a beautiful paragraph and they'll take some of the primary sentences out.
What is he talking about? The weave. That's rambling. And you don't get back to the topic so often. We just did a story about how he started on the FEMA response and then completely midway through the point, he didn't conclude the point, diverted because Elon Musk came up to the rockets and how it's so incredible how the rockets, they come down and they come in the circle. And then he got distracted from that to something else. CBS needs to be taken off the air. He never finished any of the points. He never got back to them. So even his definition of what is rambling and what's not puts him in the rambling camp. And that rambling is so appealing to MAGA, apparently, that they can't pick any other Republican to put up as their candidate. And they'll choose to do something that, you know what? I don't believe. I don't think I believe. I want to try to be sympathetic to people out there living their life. And I know that we're not talking about just all bad people at all. But how do you get now hundreds of reports that all point to this exact ideological stance of Trump and go, it's all fake news? Fake news. I don't know what's going on in people's heads. One more audio clip.
Moments ago, the New York Times posted clips from 3 new interviews with General Kelly. In it, he does not specifically refer to Jeffrey Goldberg's new reporting, which was in The Atlantic, but he confirms previous report that the former president had made admiring statements about Adolf Hitler. Kelly also told the Times that in his opinion, Trump met the definition of a fascist and would govern like a dictator if allowed.
Well, I'm looking at the definition of fascism. It's a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement characterized by a dictatorial leader, centralized autocracy, militarism, forcible suppression of opposition, belief in a natural social hierarchy. So certainly, in my experience, those are the kind of things that he thinks would work better in terms of running America.
So here's what I would say, especially if he wins. But either way, what we're going to see from MAGA is, yes, gaslighting. We're in this together. We don't have to give so much energy to the outrage that is justifiable about that gaslighting. We'll have to go, wait, but why? Why are they acting like we're the crazy ones for thinking this is bad? It doesn't do anything. I voted today. My whole team went and voted today together. It was really fun. And hopefully you have voted or have a plan to vote. Get your friends and family to make sure they vote. And what we can feel hope about is that we have a movement of people who does find this outrageous. Many of the members of that movement at one point worked for Trump, okay? And they do find this un-American. And so I'm done. I wish I was done. I'm going to try to be done giving so much outrage energy to the fact that all these MAGA media people will go, oh, the fake news at it again. Who really cares? We're the patriotic ones, and that's why I want the Hitler generals guy. We know that's not right. I just went on Piers Morgan, and it was such a brain bender to watch people go, we're the pro-American side of things. And I went, really? Because I feel like pro-American, one of the big things is you actually value our Constitution. Trump said we should terminate it. And the response is, oh my gosh, this guy. What? And it can make you feel, what are you? What? But I don't want to give that. The outrage should be about what Trump's doing. And the hope should come of the fact that millions and millions of people agree this is not presidential. However the election goes, that remains the case. And a little addition is that millions and millions of people are never going to hear about this story. Millions of people are wildly uninformed. And if they were informed, they'd not be voting for Trump. Elon Musk's doing everything he can to misinform people. He said about a fake distortion of this Atlantic piece, they're literally foaming at the mouth. And it was someone tweeting that what this Atlantic piece was, trying to make it look like it was real, was titled Trump's literally Hitler. Donald J. Trump is the reincarnation of Adolf Hitler. And Elon Musk acted like this was a real thing. His own platform had to brutally fact check him, saying this is not a real article, of course. But if you're stumbling across Elon Musk's feed and you're not super informed on politics, you might be misled into thinking that something's happening in the world that's not. And it is upsetting, but I'm going to try not to shorten my life so much by stressing about the reaction of other people. I'll just stress about the thing that I'm reacting to. We don't need to double stress about both the bad thing and how other people are reacting to the bad thing. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you want to become a member and have an absolute ball on the bonus show, you can do so by clicking the join button below.